I'm so excited that you decided to join the workshop, The Science of the Weight Loss, and finally move the needle in the right direction. So what are you going to learn today? I will tell you why the calorie counting is not working and what is the contradiction in this case. I will explain step by step what means energy balance equation and how you can calculate realistically how many kilos you can lose in 1 week. I will also share with you the difference between glycemic index and glycemic load and how should you combine the food so that you are not spiking insulin, the fat maker. So let's dive in. First, we need to say that weight loss is actually simple, but it is not easy. If it was easy, all the superstars in Hollywood would be totally skinny. And sometimes people say, well, but they have private chef and they have private personal trainer. And still, look at Oprah, that she's fighting actually with the weight for more than 30, 40 years. So it's not about money, it's about the mindset and determination, and of course, a little bit of genes. But here are 5 categories that are very important. If you know me, you know that I am a science-based nutritionist and I have a holistic view. Therefore, in every presentation that I do, I cover all the pillars of the well-being. And let's start with the mental, the mindset, because first we create habits and then the habits create us. Very often we are creatures of the bad habits that we have learned in the childhood or we were influenced by the environment, you know, the partners and friends and colleagues that slowly talk us into doing something with them. Also, we have limiting beliefs. Many of my clients, when they come to me, they say, no, but it's not possible that I skip dinner because they have family dinner together. But if you are 35 plus, 40, 50, 60, your metabolism is completely different from your children. So for example, I have a 14-year-old son and he plays 3 hours football. Then he comes home and I make him 2 homemade hamburgers. I cannot have at 8 o'clock in the evening 2 homemade hamburgers with him because I am 40 plus and majority of my time I'm sitting and preparing presentations like this. So you see, I can sit at the table with him and have a nice conversation, but I necessarily don't need to eat the same meal. So that is a limiting belief. And I ask you, what is your limiting belief? Is it that, for example, breakfast needs to be sweet or that you must eat breakfast? The last thing is brain chemistry. So we have all these hormones and neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, the happy hormone that make us satisfied. And if the levels of these hormones are low, our brain is sending us signals and says, look, go to eat something sweet or some carbohydrates. And you might have cravings to have bread or pasta or pizza, because this food is then going to increase your mood and you will feel happier. And we get into this vicious circle to have this dopamine. So we already know with the dopamine hit that glass of wine or piece of chocolate is going to make us feel better. And that is a habit. So I invite you to think about which habits you have and whether the habits are serving you or not, and whether you are ready to get out of your comfort zone and try something new. Because every change in your life is really uncomfortable, but only for 21 days, maybe even 7 days for somebody. And if you really stick to it, it is very easy to change the habit. The second part is emotional, because emotions are driving us. It's energy in motion. And very often people fear of failure. So maybe it happened to you before that you started a diet every Monday, every month, every new year, and you failed. And then you have this inner critic in you that is saying, You are a loser. Give up. You never succeed. But that is not like this. You have to break down the fear and keep trying. Maybe you will fail 7 times, but you get up 8 times. Anger, it's another emotion that is making us to eat. And here we talk about emotional overeating, because very often, if you are aware of it, you are not physically hungry. You are not craving broccoli or apple. You want something sweet to make yourself feel better. Maybe you feel lonely and you go in the evening and have chocolate or ice cream. So this is emotional overeating. And unless you recognize your emotions and you handle them, you will not be able to break out of this vicious circle. The third type is physical exercise, this physical well-being. So many of my clients start exercising like crazy, especially in January. They say, I will go for a run every single day, but it is not sustainable. And especially if you over exercise. Remember, your body is not used to that. You have to take it slowly, because exercise or any other regimen that is too strict is scary for your body. It's going to increase the cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. It's trying to save you from running away from the tiger. And then it's going to increase blood glucose levels. When you have high blood glucose levels, this is going to spike insulin, another hormone, and insulin is a fat maker. And we will talk about it a little bit later. Opposite to that is complete inactivity. So if you are like me and you sit most of your time at the computer, you need to do some activity during the day. And it doesn't have to be exercise. It can be just even cleaning or going for a walk with dogs. So this activity can help you to burn more calories than the actual exercise. And we will cover it in details a little bit later. And nutrition, obviously. As a science-based nutritionist, I see every single client doing mistakes. So it's all about the lack of knowledge. So somebody, for example, tells me, oh, my New Year's resolution is to drink orange juice in the morning. That's the worst thing that you can do. And so on it goes. Even though it seems to you healthy, believe me, it's not. Definitely not for the weight loss. And spiritual. Every time when you want to lose the weight or when you want to make some change in any area of your life, you need to know your why. Simon Sinek says that if you know your why, the how and what to do comes after, because you will always be driven by this purpose and so motivated that you will know exactly what to do. So I invite you to watch my workshop about the vision board, how to create a powerful vision board so that you find your why, you know your purpose, and you have a meaning in every action that you do. So I give you a little example. I had a client that wanted to lose weight and she said, I want to lose 10 kilos. But why did she want to lose the weight? So the actual reason was that she wanted to climb Machu Picchu with her children and not feel tired and not be puffing and not have sore knees, and that everybody is in ease and they just walk and enjoy the nature. So this was her goal. And she created the vision board and she had there the picture of Machu Picchu and her small picture stick to it. And every single day, the picture was speaking more than 1,000 words. And she knew why she needs to go for a walk, why she needs to hit the gym, or why she needs to eat in a certain way. So what is your why? You can think about it. And we look at our first kind of like challenge or mistake that many people do. And that is the energy balance equation. I'm sure you have already heard before, energy in, energy out, and that this needs to be in balance. So where is the energy balance? So what you eat, here we talk about clean food, clean eating, protein, fat, carbohydrates. How much? That's what we are going to cover later on. And calories out. How can you burn or utilize the fuel the calories that you just ate, either with the exercise or daily activity or resting metabolism. So what is resting metabolism? I'm sure that you have a smartwatch or smart ring, Oura ring like I have, or any smart application or smart weight that is measuring what is the percentage of fat, how many kilos of muscle you have. But let me tell you that these devices absolutely don't correspond with the reality. Those are only algorithm calculated on an average person, but you are not average. You are special, you are unique, and you have your own special DNA. So I give you an example. I also have this smart scale. And when I jump on the scale in the morning, it tells me that I have 49.6 kilo and, for example, 15% of body fat. And I'm like, wow, this is good. Then I go to drink glass of water, 500 milliliters, which is 500 grams. And when I step on the scale, it tells me I'm over 50 and that I have 17% of the body fat. And suddenly, in this small moment, I have 1 kilo of muscle more. Well, how is that possible? Then I go for a 10 kilometers run. I come back home and I have 49 kilos and only 14% of the body fat. All of this in 1 hour time. So you see, I make fun of it because this is not real. The same goes with the watch. It's telling me that in those 10 kilometers, I burned 460 calories, but I know it's not reality because 10 years ago, I went in Prague to the Olympic Center. And there you stay for 2 hours and they're testing you while you exercise. So there is a nurse that every 5 minutes takes the blood from the ear and they're measuring the glucose, lactic acid and other markers to see how your body reacts to the exercise. And obviously, as I was running on the machine, they are increasing the speed and also the steepness. So it's harder and harder. And then after, let's say, 30, 40 minutes of the running, I had to do other exercises and I had to show them what I eat. And from this, and of course, they're measuring the body fat and other parts of the body. So from this, 10 years ago, I knew that my resting metabolism is 1,100 calories. So when you see on the packaging that the average woman like me can eat 2,000 calories per day, that is actually not true. So if you are sticking to 2,000, you are overfeeding your body, maybe. So this was 10 years ago. Now I have maybe 900 kilocalories of a resting metabolism. So everything that I eat over, and if I don't exercise and just sit on my bum at home, I'm going to store it as a fat in my body. So let's say as a yoga teacher, I know that I burn 97 calories in 1 hour of quite good lesson of yoga. And 97 calories, it's 1 apple or half of the banana. Just imagine. So if I decide that I want to lose weight, it's maybe better for me to skip half of the banana rather than torturing myself on yoga. But I love yoga and obviously I will do it and I teach my clients happily. But I'm giving you these examples so that you fully understand that if you are choosing to exercise and you do it purely because you believe you are going to lose the weight, that's not true. Exercise has many other benefits. Exercise is very good for detoxification because you are sweating and you are eliminating the toxins through your skin. It's also good because your muscles, for example, during running, are contracting and your lymphatic system is able to bring it to the drainage and eliminate it because lymphatic system doesn't have any mechanism that would be moving the lymph and all the dirt away. Exercise, cardio, is very good for your myocardium, for your heart muscle, because you are putting it under the pressure and therefore you are making it more resilient and prepared for the stress. And there would be a list of other reasons why exercise is good, but exercise must be also pleasure for you. And I therefore invite you to find something that is sustainable, because only consistency is the key to seeing results. So if it's, for example, long walks with the dog or going for a walk with your friend instead of sitting in a cafe, it might be a very good start. And then maybe you add Indian running. So you are running for 50 meters and then you walk again. Yeah. So that's to the exercise. And I invite you to make your own calculation. Daily activity, you can see, actually burns more calories than the exercise. And what is the daily activity? For example, even cleaning. When you are vacuum cleaning the house, you can burn 120 calories. So actually more than the yoga class. Yeah. And some people like cleaning or maybe even gardening. That is pretty hard work when you are bending up and down, you are carrying the soil, you are planting the seeds, and it has benefits on your mood too. So let's count together. If you want to lose 1 kilo of the body weight, that is 7,700 calories. So let's say that you are a man or woman, 50-year-old, quite large, you need 1,700 calories per day. You decide that you don't want to exercise, and therefore you are thinking about caloric reduction. So let's say that I don't recommend cutting down the calories for more than 500. 500 is, for example, 2 snacks. So if you stick to eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, but you don't have any snacks, you can easily cut the calories per day by 500. If you are consistent and you stick to this for 15 days, you have a high chance of losing 1 kilo of the body weight. And now we are maybe saying, but Blanca, once I did a cabbage diet and I lost 5 kilos in 1 week. And I would challenge you, was it really 5 kilos of fat? Or was it water and muscle? Because if you are not consuming enough protein, and we will talk about it a little bit later, you are going to break down the muscle, and muscle is heavier than fat. So you can easily lose 5 kilos, 3 kilos of water and 2 kilos of muscle. And then as soon as you start eating normally, you gain it back because you experience yo-yo effect. So I say, be realistic, stick to something that is sustainable for you. Even if you do micro steps every single week, you are collecting the small drops, and soon, maybe in 6 months, you are going to see sustainable results. So if you, for example, want to lose 10 kilos, it might take you 150 days, but that is absolutely fine, because then you are not going to gain it all in one go. So what are micronutrients and how much do you actually need to eat? So here I give you a couple of examples, but I do not agree with all the diets and strategies. So for example, ketogenic diet. Research showed that it's very good for people who have cancer or metabolic syndrome or diabetes. And they definitely improve their metabolic results, and they lose the weight, and they improve the insulin sensitivity. But ketogenic diet needs to be done correctly with the supervision of a nutritionist or dietitian or any medical specialist. So in ketogenic diet, you are allowed to consume only 20 grams of carbohydrates per day. And now you don't really know what is 20 grams. So it's 1 apple. Yeah? Or it's, for example, 250 grams of cottage cheese or yogurt. Yeah? So it's really small amount, or it's maybe 2 very healthy pancakes, and you would be in the morning already completing your carbohydrate load. And anyway, you are not allowed to eat the carbohydrates in the morning. So you have to kind of spread it throughout the day. So you can see how complicated it is to stick to this for a longer period of time, for example, 1 year or 2 years. So what I recommend is, for example, low calorie diet. a low carbohydrate diet. And that's sticking to around 80 grams of carbohydrates per day. And I believe that this is sustainable, and many of my clients can live like this for many, many months and years without feeling restrictions or scarcity. Average person that is carrying quite a lot of body fat and it's not watching what they eat, so they would, for example, have pizza, pasta, bread, they usually consume even 200 grams of carbohydrates per day. Protein. You absolutely need 1 gram of protein for every kilo of your body weight. So if you are 60 kilos, you need 60 grams of protein. And here I give you again examples so that you can imagine what you would need to eat. So if you are omnivore, which means that you eat absolutely everything, even meat. So let's say that the measurement is the palm of your hand. So this would be my hand. 150 grams of chicken would be 20 grams of protein. Let's say that I eat 3 times a day. So it would be 20, 20, 20. So let's say that for breakfast, I would, for example, have fromage frais, quark, skyr. So in 200 grams of skyr, I would have 20 grams of protein. Let's say that for dinner, I would decide to have fish or sardines or salmon. So again, the portion 120 or even 200 grams would give me between 20 and 30 grams of protein. So I would nicely, in 3 meals, cover the protein. If you are vegan, vegetarian, and you are eating, for example, nuts, you have to eat more. So 1 handful of almonds is between 4 to 6 grams of protein. 40 grams of beans is maybe 6, 7 grams of protein. So try to calculate how much of it you need to eat to cover your daily amount. If you are a man and you have 100 kilos, you need 100 grams of protein. If you are an athlete, which you are probably not, otherwise you wouldn't be in a workshop of the science of the weight loss. But if you are an athlete, you would need 2 grams of protein for every kilo of the body weight. But don't overdo it on protein, because if you overdo it on protein, you will have really stinky farts. It's those silent and violent that you cannot hear. They're escaping from your bum and they are killing everybody around you. This is a typical sign of when you overdo it on protein. And then we need fat. And you say, well, I have enough fat on my body. And you are probably right. But you still need omega-3. So omega-6 is inflammatory. It's causing inflammation in your body. If you have high cholesterol levels, if you have any autoimmune disease, rheumatoid arthritis, if you have diabetes, if you have metabolic syndrome, if you have any health issues, most probably you have inflammation in your body, and then you shouldn't consume omega-6. So omega-6 are in animal products. That will be in meat, in yogurt, in cottage cheese, in cheese. So every day we consume quite a lot of omega-6, but not enough of omega-3. So salmon, if you take 250 grams of salmon, it's going to have only 200 of EPA and DHA. This is the active part of the omega-3. Omega-3 are anti-inflammatory, and we usually need to supplement it. So I made a video about which supplements are the best for the best price, and you can watch it on my YouTube channel or send me an email and I will happily share it with you. So you still need fat, let's say 20 grams of fat per day, but mostly from omega-3. Nuts and seeds are very high in omega-6 and they still have some omega-3. So even there you need to watch how much of it you eat. Fiber, that's the last micronutrient. We also needed around 25 grams of fiber. And believe it or not, it's quite difficult to achieve it. So in UK, we have recommendation that you should eat 5 portions of fruit and vegetable per day. Especially if you're trying to lose the weight, you don't want to eat fruit. Maybe one piece of fruit like kiwi, papaya, pineapple or maybe 1 apple a day, which keeps the doctor away. But you definitely want to stay away from a sweet fruit like banana, because it's very caloric and high in sugar, and it's going to make a weight loss much more difficult. So you stick to vegetable that is very high in vitamins and minerals and high in fiber. So 4 portions of vegetable would be really the minimum. But in Australia, they recommend 10 a day. And that's what I recommend too. So I have a challenge for you. Try to look at how many portions of fruit and vegetable you eat per day. And what is a portion? Use your hand as a measurement. So handful of rucola salad is 1 portion. Handful of cherry tomatoes is another portion. Handful of grapes is another portion. Handful of cooked carrots would be another portion, and so on. You continue. So everything you measure with your handful. My handful is going to be much smaller than a hand of a large man. Yeah. Let's go to your homework. So now I gave you lots of homeworks, but I just repeat it. Make a realistic goal. How many kilos do you want to lose, and what steps can you already take? What do you think is your resting metabolism? How many calories do you think you spend in doing exercise or the activities during the day? And yeah, watch the packaging. Look, for example, how many carbohydrates is in your whole wheat pasta. So if you have 100 grams of whole wheat pasta, which has usually like 60 to 70 grams of carbohydrates. So in that 1 portion that you have for lunch, you completed the whole amount of carbohydrates per day. So what can you do around it? And at the end of this presentation, I'm going to show you some menus. So example of breakfast, lunch, and dinner to give you some idea. But let's look at the calories. Maybe you are using app that is telling you, okay, you spent or you ate 1,200 calories today. So if you eat, for example, 2 biscuits, it can be 90 calories. And if you eat 1 avocado, large avocado, it's 700 calories. So you might be looking just at the calories thinking, well, I'm not going to eat avocado like 700 calories. But these 2 biscuits are innocent. But this is much more complex, because you have to look at how your body is utilizing this fuel that you gave it. Is it coming directly into the bloodstream and spiking the insulin, the fat maker? Or is it coming into your bloodstream very slowly? And how hard work is it for your body to break it down? So we look at these categories. So what is starch? Starch is basically like a longer chain of molecules of sugar connected together. Starch is a storage of the carbohydrates, the sugar in plants. And this is usually plants that are growing in the soil. So for example, beetroot, carrot, parsnip, celery, potatoes. Yeah? So there is a concentration of the sugar, because when it needs to grow, that needs more energy. So when you are eating this, and I'm not saying it's unhealthy, of course it's healthy, but what means healthy? You need to ask yourself, do I need it in that time? Do I need that fuel at the dinner time for sleep? Yeah, that's the question. So starch, glucose, actually it shows you that it has only 3.75 calories per gram. So it actually looks like not that much. Then you look at fat, it's 9. Yeah, that's why it is high. The avocado is high in calories, and then you have alcohol, 7. But what are the other numbers? So you can see that with protein. So protein has 4 calories per gram. So it's actually more than sugar, but you need to look at the molecular structure. So this beautiful picture that you can actually see it's protein. So it's coiled protein. And you can see that there is many molecules. And our body cannot take and absorb such a large molecule. It has to chop it to single pieces. So separate all these molecules so that it can be absorbed by our body. So imagine that takes quite a lot of energy. So there's this energy cost that the body needs to invest in order to get something out of it. And in case of protein, it's 20 to 30% of the amount of calories that you eat. So at the end, the number on the packaging is not corresponding to what you are actually going to absorb. However, if you look at the glucose and you eat these two biscuits that are basically simple sugar, because glucose is one molecule. There is nothing to chop. There is nothing to break. This molecule from the biscuit, all these molecules are going to penetrate into the bloodstream immediately. And they are going to increase the blood glucose levels, which is going to spike the insulin, the fat maker. And all these biscuits are going to be turned into the energy. If your body doesn't need it, it's going to be turned into fat. But in the case of protein, it's not going to be like this. And with fat, so you cannot actually absorb, even if you eat like 4 avocados in one sitting, it is not possible for the body to break it down because the molecular structure of fat is way too complicated and body is actually very lazy to break it down. So it's going to eliminate it in the stool. Maybe it happened to you that if you, for example, had a really creamy sauce and you overdone it on macadamia nuts, you had really sticky diarrhea. And this is because the body did not absorb the fat. And with alcohol, I don't recommend alcohol. And you might be like surprised that actually your body uses 10 to 30% of the calories to eliminate it, because alcohol is a toxin and our body is trying to clear the liver and all the toxins, send them away. So it's actually quite hard work to break all of this down. So alcohol in a weight loss, sorry, not recommended. But let's look more into the glucose. So we have different glucose, and maybe you have already heard this, that you buy whole wheat bread with seeds in it because it is better. It's recommended, it's better. And why is it better? Because it is not a monosaccharide, but it is polysaccharide. So poly means longer chain, and therefore the body has to keep it longer in the stomach and really like chop, break it down. So for example, starch, I already told you, it's in beetroot and carrots and potatoes. So it's more complex structure, and you can actually see it here on the picture. But for example, lactose, which is sugar in the milk, it has only 2 molecules. It is a disaccharide, and it's going to be very easy to chop it. So even though you don't think that, for example, yogurt or any dairy product might have sugar, everything that finishes with ose is sugar. Maltose, sucrose, galactose, and fructose is a fruit sugar. Yeah, and you can see it's a simple sugar. It gets immediately into the bloodstream and it's actually causing the fatty liver. So maybe you think like, do I need sugar? And do I need to eat carbohydrates like bread, pasta, pizza, rice? And the answer would be not really, you don't. Because if you, for example, eat sweet potatoes or beetroot, or if you eat vegetable, even broccoli, every plant has glucose. Every plant has sugar because it's needed for the photosynthesis. Yeah, so sugar is absolutely everywhere. And if you eat it in fruit and vegetable, it's absolutely fine. You are going to cover the daily necessary dose of glucose that your brain prefers. And if you don't eat, if you are, for example, fasting for 1, 2, 3 days, we have a process in the body and it's called gluconeogenesis. So glucose, neo, new, and genesis, to create. Your liver is so smart that it can break down protein and fat, the storage that you have in your body, and turn it into glucose. So you don't need to consume glucose. That's why people on a ketogenic diet, even though they were diabetic, they can flow through the days with ease and they are not feeling any hunger. They got out of this vicious circle. But as I say, it is a challenge at the start and you should do it only with a supervisor. So let's look at the next slide, and that is sugar has many names. And I invite you to check your favorite labels and see where is the sugar hidden, because on this picture you can see that even, for example, maple syrup or coconut nectar or everything that, or agave syrup and beet sugar and glucose, lactose, what do we have here? All these names. Corn is also cornstarch. Everything is sugar. And I want to tell you why you want to avoid sugar. And if you want to lose weight, what you need to learn to be. You need to become a hybrid car. And what does that mean? So hybrid car is when you are able to switch in between different sources of the fuel. So fat, which is ketones, and carbohydrates, which is basically the glucose, the sugar that is absolutely everywhere. So what happens to many of my clients is that they tell me that after 3 or 4 hours or 5 hours of not eating, they feel like dizzy and shaky, and they kind of need something sweet to pick them up or some coffee because they cannot do it anymore. And this is a typical sign of not being a hybrid car. What we also need to take into consideration is microbiota. So if you have a healthy gut and you are eating probiotics and prebiotic food, your bacteria are creating butyrate, and butyrate is basically the energy for the enterocytes. I know lots of names. Enterocytes are the cells in our intestine. So this long tube through which the food is coming. And then these butyrate, this energy, can get into the bloodstream and is giving you energy all day long. So if you have all these microbiota, 39 trillion microbiota cells in your body, compared to 30 trillion cells in the whole body. So just imagine, we have more microbiota, these good and bad bacteria, in our body than we have in our own cells. And if you have different diversity, they are creating different energy and they're keeping you stable all day long. Also, if you want to be a hybrid car, you want to challenge your metabolism a little bit. So you are not sticking to the same time of the day, the same meals, and the same exercise, but you are doing this variety. What you also need to take into consideration are hormones. Because if you, for example, have hypothyroidism, which means that you have low thyroid hormones, your metabolism, right, this burning energy, this thermostat in you is working in a much slower way. But there are ways how you can speed it up. And the same is for sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone for men. If they have higher levels of testosterone, they actually don't need to eat. They can just like exercise and flow through their days with ease. And for women, if they have a regular menstrual cycle and they have a nice balance of the estrogen and progesterone and healthy ovulation, they also flow through the days with ease. So let me tell you more about insulin, this anabolic hormone, the fat maker. And I like to think about it like a guard in the bank. So insulin, as an anabolic hormone, it likes to save the money, but doesn't like to let money go out. So it helps us to gain the weight easily, and it's also helping us to build the muscle. So the strategy for the weight loss is not to eliminate insulin completely, because you can see that we need it. But the strategy is to maybe spike it only 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and not in a massive amount, because insulin, as any other hormone, will disappear after 30 minutes from the bloodstream when it has done its job. And that's exactly what we want. But if you are snacking constantly, eating even half of the apple, you are constantly spiking the insulin. And whenever the insulin is going to be in the bloodstream, it's like the guard at the bank. It will never allow you to tap into the storage of the fat that you are trying to lose and spend it. What can also happen that you can say, look, I really eat like a bird. I already eat only once a day, and that is salad with a little bit of protein. And I would ask you, have you tried in the past 2, 5, 10 years any restrictive dieting? Maybe you got yourself into the yo-yo effect and you gained everything back. And now your body is way too scared to let go. I will tell you more about that. Another reason why you are gaining fat without eating too much is stress. Stress is a culprit of like 75% of all the health issues that we have. Because when we spike adrenaline, which is the first one that comes, and then cortisol, which is a steroid hormone, it's a slower one that stays in the bloodstream for longer. We are in the stressed run away from a tiger situation. And our body knows that we will need sugar in the bloodstream to run away. So it's going to actually break down the protein, and that can be protein from your hair, from your nails, from your teeth, from your skin, the collagen, to utilize it for this imaginary run away from the tiger. So stress is always perceived. It's only illusion. Only you are stressing yourself because you see it as a potential danger. So here I would invite you to work on the mindset and emotional part with a specialist. And once you break this and you lower the cortisol levels, you are not going to spike the insulin. Maybe you have also noticed that if you cannot get pregnant, if you have endometriosis, fibroids in the breast, or any menstrual problems, it's because you have decreased progesterone levels. This is again because of cortisol. So cortisol is going to lower the progesterone. There is no time for pregnancy, conceiving, or even libido and enjoying sex. No, there is no time for it. So it will increase the estrogen into such a massive levels that you will suffer with the hair loss. You might be even losing the eyebrows. You might start growing the hair on your face because even your testosterone levels are going up. And maybe you have even acne on your chest, on your butt, or anywhere on your body, on the parts of your skin. Maybe you have even dry skin and other hormonal imbalances. If you are a man, you might notice the opposite. So you have low levels of testosterone, the masculine hormone, and you have larger levels of estrogen, the feminine hormone. So you might notice that you have a belly fat, you have enlarged breast, enlarged nipples, and you have enlarged prostate. So it means that you need to go to the toilet more often because you have this like need of urinate, even though there is not much urine, but you have to stop the car on a highway and just like jump out. And you need to talk to the specialist if this is the case for you. So this is a typical picture of what your body can look like if your hormones are out of control. And here are two beautiful pictures that explain what's happening in your body with the glucose. So you can see that if you have high insulin levels, you ask yourself, there are many cases why you can have high insulin levels. And one of them is you are eating way too many carbohydrates and your body doesn't need it. And you are therefore, spiking the insulin way too much, which means that the pancreas, the organ in your body, the beta cells are producing way too much. And on this beautiful picture, you can see the red balls and the blue balls. So the red balls represent glucose, the sugar, the blood sugar. And hormones are very important. Hormones are like chemical messengers and they are key. And especially insulin. Insulin is a key hormone in our body. So insulin, the blue ball, has to come to the cell, and there are these receptors, and it needs to unlock the gate. And then the gate opens and the red balls can enter inside. They go into mitochondria. It's like energy powerhouse, this fabric that is creating the energy. And they turn the glucose in the electron transport chain into money, the currency of the body. And this is called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Our cells don't want to work for free. They want to be paid for everything. So if you want the muscle to contract, you pay 3 ATP to the gatekeeper in there. So you see that we need energy for everything. And if you are now finding yourself that, oh, you have that energy, drowsiness, slump in the afternoon, or maybe even in the morning, maybe your mitochondria are not working in an optimal way. Maybe the insulin, maybe you don't have enough insulin and it's not opening the gates. And what can be another problem is the insulin resistant cells. So it means that throughout the day you are stressing yourself, so flooding the bloodstream with sugar. On the top of it, you are drinking the coffee that is going to increase adrenaline, which is again going to flood the sugar into the bloodstream. Then you are going to eat banana and apple and porridge, these seemingly healthy things, which is still carbohydrates. And the cells are opening the gate and getting all the red balls inside. And then the cell, the mitochondria, says, do you know what? I don't want to work that hard. You are always asking me for everything, and I'm going to shut the door. So on this picture, you can see that these receptors shut. Let's shut. They are not anymore opening for the insulin, and therefore the glucose cannot come inside. But what to do now? The brain is sending the signal saying, hey, we have way too high levels of sugar. Insulin, go and remove it. And insulin says, well, I would like to do it, but the cells are not opening, right? There needs to be a synchrony of all these workers in the body. So there is always a backup plan. The liver, the precious organ that you have on the right side under the breast, will say, okay, I will take care of it. Give me the insulin, give me the glucose. I take the glucose, the sugar, I turn it into cholesterol, and I will increase the blood levels of the cholesterol, and I will increase the belly fat and the love handles. And with the insulin, I will also make sure I can break it down and eliminate it from the body. So you can see liver is extremely overloaded. And when you look at your blood test results, maybe you can see all these enzymes spiking up. That's what I see with my clients. And then we know there is something that we need to change. So now you fully understand what is insulin resistance. And maybe you are asking yourself, am I riding the blood glucose roller coaster? So do you feel drowsy during the day? Or even if you are not eating, you have a stable levels of blood glucose. Can you skip breakfast? Can you go for a run? Can you just concentrate on your presentation and then just, wow, it's 6 o'clock in the evening. I did not eat anything and I still feel fine. If this is your case, then you are absolutely fine. If you tell me that you have a breakfast like porridge in the morning and after 2 hours you are hungry, your blood glucose levels is on a roller coaster. Maybe you can even feel dizzy and irritated if you skip the dinner. You are shaking in the bed. I used to be like this 16 years ago when I was dieting. So I know exactly what it feels like when you have a hypoglycemia, when you have that dip in the blood glucose levels and you just need to go to eat something sweet. You have these cravings. It's not cravings for broccoli, it's cravings for a snack, bread, or coffee. And I also used to have the belly fat and the love handles. Maybe you have also noticed that you have like slow wound healing. It's just not disappearing. Maybe you have a dry, itchy skin, rosacea on your face, and really the quality of your hair is not good. On the top of it, you have high cholesterol levels. Even if you maybe don't carry as much fat, but the cholesterol levels are alarming. And if you need to urinate during the night, so you cannot really go through the night without waking up. If you feel thirsty very often, these are already signs of a pre-diabetic state. And I would invite you to visit your doctor and get the blood tests done, because insulin resistance is a culprit of all these diseases that you can see in the circle. But it's reversible. You can change it with the optimal diet. So here would be, for example, what the blood test results can look like. So if you have cholesterol that is going over 5, if you have, for example, this is glycosylated hemoglobin, which basically means if it goes like over 5, that the glucose in your bloodstream is staying present for a long time and it's attaching to hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is a protein in red blood cells and it's carrying oxygen to the cells. And when the molecule of glucose attaches to that, it basically enables the red blood cells, the hemoglobin, to do what it's supposed to do. And these red blood cells can even burst and die. Yeah. So you would again see other markers in your blood results that are indicating this. So we go back to energy balance equation. So what can you do about it? You maybe want to create caloric deficit, but what would be the impact if you do it, for example, in a wrong way? Let's say that if you give me every single day for many, many, many years, 1,200 euro every single day. I know that this is the budget and I can spend it every single day because tomorrow I will get again 1,200. I'm certain about it. I'm not worried. Then you decide to go on a crazy juice fast and you give me only 700 calories per day. Well, I feel fear and scarcity. And you do this for 2 or 3 days, or I don't know, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then you go back to your normal eating of 1,200 calories. But in that time, I realized that you are going to give me only 700. So I adjust. I spend only 700. And when you give me 1,200, I don't trust you anymore. I know that you can trick me again and I will stay on 700. And that's why the yo-yo effect happens. You might initially lose not fat, but water and the muscle, right? You are satisfied of seeing that 5 kilos, 10 kilos disappear, but then you come back to your old bad habits because you were on a diet, you did not change your lifestyle and you gain it back. But next time you go on a diet, your body is already set to 700 calories. It will never take the 1,200 calories. So then when you want to lose weight, you need to decrease it to 500, which is complete craziness. And that's why so many of my clients are eating like a bird. They seriously eat only vegetable with one small piece of protein and they are gaining weight. They have completely messed up their metabolism. But there is a way out of this vicious circle. But of course, it takes longer because the research showed that there is a certain set point theory. It actually takes 2 years to our body to get used to a new body weight. So imagine it's like a thermostat. Your body likes some weight. So for example, for me, my body absolutely loves like 51 kilos. And I can eat even like cakes or overeat at Christmas and I will still have 51. But I like to have bikini body, which is 49 kilos. So it is extremely hard for me to cut down the calories, maybe exercise a little bit more or do other strategies to get to 49 because the set point is 51. So I have to go lower. Yeah, but I definitely want to avoid the yo-yo effect. So sometimes we go against our body because we have a vision for our body that is different than the set point. And of course, the genes are playing the role as well. So here I would invite you again to be realistic and not to go crazy on a weight that you did not have in your earlier years. So what would be the biggest message that I want you to carry home today, it is not to spike the insulin. So let's look at the practical side, how you can do it. So you know that insulin will get spiked every time when you are flooding the blood with the sugar, with the carbohydrates, which can be any plant source. It can be beans, fruit, vegetable, bread. It's basically everywhere. And let me tell you that there is a difference between high glycemic index and high glycemic load. So glycemic index is just showing, comparing it to pure glucose, 200. And I will show you in the next slides examples of it. And glycemic load is actually that you have there the fiber, because fiber, if you consume enough fiber, it's holding the sugar inside. So it's almost like it creates a bubble around the sugar, and the sugar is only very slowly, one by one molecule by one, getting released into the bloodstream. So it doesn't cause such a big shock. With food combination, and that's why it's critical, the effect of the protein, carbohydrates, and fat on insulin. So you can see that if you eat only carbohydrates, and it's, for example, like whole wheat bread, the pluses, you see, it's actually quite high. Yeah, so more plus signs, more you are spiking the insulin. Look at protein. So we said that protein also spikes insulin, but only a little bit, because we need this anabolic hormone to help us to build the muscles. And protein is also hormones and enzymes and collagen in the skin and the hair and the nails. Protein is absolutely everywhere. But now look, fat, if you eat fat only, like avocado with a little bit of salt and lemon juice, or a handful of macadamia nuts, it has no impact on insulin. So even if you cannot go without snacks and you have one handful of macadamia nuts, you are better off than having a piece of bread. Look at the combination of carbs and fat. It actually spikes it as well. But look at the protein and fat. It's still good. So what would be the example of protein and fat? So for example, chicken or sardines with avocado. It's quite a lot of fat. It's quite a lot of protein. Sardines, you know, three tiny sardines have 28 grams of protein. Pretty good number. And it's going to make you really satisfied because it's increasing the hormone leptin, which is a satiety hormone. It's an amazing snack. And you can have unlimited amount of low carbohydrate vegetable, rucola salad, cucumber, and so on. You can download on my website in the footer the shopping list of clean eating that I highly recommend, and you can follow it. And you will receive also 12 videos that explain you one by one what to do and many, many tips. Then look at the high protein and low carbohydrate. So what would be low carbohydrate? So that will be, for example, buckwheat flour. Yeah, I'm a buckwheat queen, so I make buckwheat pancakes. And if you have it with high protein, so for example, homemade Nutella, which would be from roasted almonds with a raw cocoa powder and MCT coconut oil. If you combine it, it's a great snack, great breakfast. Look at the high carbs and low protein. It's the worst combination, yeah? Or low carbs and medium protein, it's not bad. So again, another homework. Try to look at what you are usually eating and try to think how much protein, carbohydrate, and fat is in each portion. So how many carbohydrates do you need? And I already told you that ketogenic diet would be like 20 grams per day, which is really hard and not sustainable. And low carbs would be 80 grams per day. I also mentioned to you that there is a difference between glycemic load and glycemic index. What's also important is the time of the day when you eat it. So let's say that you are going to exercise at the lunchtime or after lunch. So maybe at 10 o'clock, You can have some complex carbohydrates with protein and then do your really hard work. But exercise, we mean you go for 10 kilometers run. Exercise is not 10,000 steps per day or a class of yoga. For this type of exercise, you don't need to eat anything at all, and you don't need to repair the muscle after that, because you are not damaging it. And if you are damaging some muscles, you have amino acid pool in your body, and you are going to use the amino acids out of this. You also need to think about your intention, like why do you want to lose the weight, and if whatever you are changing is sustainable. Think about the limiting beliefs that you have and what would be your ideal lifestyle approach. So let's look at the calculation of the glycemic index. I actually don't like this, and I don't recommend it to any of my clients because I just simply don't believe it's sustainable to calculate it. But I prepared it here only for you in case you absolutely love numbers. So look, for example, on the glycemic index of the melon, it's 72 in a portion which is 120 grams. So it will be like 2 slices of the melon, but it contains only 6 grams of carbohydrates because the rest of is the water. Yeah? So that's why the glycemic index, and glycemic load is just 4.3. So if you want to lose the weight, you don't want to go over 10 of the glycemic load. You can go on internet, you can find like lists of thousands and thousands and thousands of food. And if you want to do your calculation for you, this would be the formula, but I really don't recommend it. And here, just as example, and you can download this presentation as well, you can see what is surprising. So many of my clients that are vegans, they tell me, I don't eat sugar. I eat only energy balls. But what is the energy ball? It's made from dates. And you can see that dates has 103 of the GI glycemic index. So if 100 is a pure glucose, it has actually more glucose than the white sugar. Yeah. So look at this, maltose as well. It's in beer. It's actually even in chicken stock. It's in so many places. Baguette, 95. Crazy stuff. Rice, 73. So look at what you eat. I absolutely don't recommend breakfast cereal. I know that many adults don't eat it, but they still give it to their children. And it's breaking my heart because look what you do to your kids. You are just flooding their system with highly processed food that has only synthetic vitamins because everything was stripped away. If you can just make for them like millet porridge, like I do for my children, or you can make a really nice buckwheat and almond pancakes with a melted chocolate or homemade Nutella, they will love it, believe me, and you don't damage their health. Look at the vegetable. That's also very interesting. Parsnip, when it's cooked, 97. Sweet potato, 61. Beetroot, 64. Carrot, 47. But it doesn't mean that we have to avoid it. We just need to be strategic and eat these starchy vegetables during the day for lunch, and then we go for a beautiful walk, and we can really utilize this fuel, this sugar, as a source of energy for our exercise. Pulses. Many vegans obviously need to rely on the pea protein and other sources like baked beans, lentils. So you can see that the numbers of the sugar are not very high, but you still need to be aware of when you strategically eat the pulses, and also take into consideration bloating, because all the pulses have lectin, and lectin is a poison. So if you have sensitive stomach and you are bloated after eating the pulses, you are causing the inflammation into your system, increasing the cortisol, which is a stress hormone, increasing the insulin, and you are in a vicious circle. Let's look at the examples of the breakfast. So the pages that you actually see here, you are going to receive if you ever have a consultation with me. You can get for free functional medicine cookbook. It's so it's 140 amazing recipes that I recommend, or you can buy it on Amazon. This book is around 100 Swiss francs, 100 euro. So this is what I recommend. You take into consideration if you are exercising in the morning or not. So if you are exercising and you know that you go for a long run or you are going to do a high intensity interval training, you are going to utilize this energy, this sugar immediately, and that would be your breakfast. If you are not exercising person, it's really good to start with eggs, spinach, frittata, shakshuka, or anything that consists with the protein and healthy source of vegetable. Here is a beautiful website, Downshiftology. She has amazing recipes and videos that can also inspire you. What would I recommend for lunch if you want to lose the weight? So I would say, for example, zucchini noodles with chicken, spinach, and parmesan. So parmesan, you are thinking maybe like it's a cheese, but parmesan, it's fermented cheese. So it's actually quite high in lactic bacteria. So they are going to help you with the fermentation, grow the good bacteria, which in return are going to create the energy. And parmesan is very high in calcium, which is amazing for the contraction of your muscles. Spinach, when you eat one full bag of spinach, which is only 26 calories, your body needs to invest energy, and it's actually going to burn 80, 100 calories. So you get your body into energy deficit by eating the spinach, rucola, or any green leafy vegetable. Chicken is an amazing source of protein, and zucchini noodles. I know that you maybe don't want to make it at home, but nowadays you can buy it in every supermarket. And I think it's a really nice variety to normal pasta. So you still kind of think you have pasta, but zucchini is basically just water and fiber. It has no calories whatsoever. What about having nice soup? Soup, for example, with coconut cream. And you might be thinking, but coconut, that's fat. Yeah, it is a saturated fat. But research showed that actually the saturated fat, it's ketones that get immediately into the bloodstream, and it makes you less hungry, gives you all that energy that you need. It has a sweet taste, creamy taste, and it's very satisfying. And I have in the ebook, the 5 biggest weight loss mistakes that you make right now and how to avoid them, have there a recipe for a butternut squash soup with red lentils and coconut milk and these herbaria spices. So check it out because it is amazing. And you can basically replace the butternut squash for sweet potatoes or broccoli or anything. It just tastes delicious with any kind of vegetable. You can make your homemade chicken stock. You can try this Russian borscht, and you can add there a little bit of apple. Just so many amazing recipes. I told you that you shouldn't be snacking, but if you are starting, take it easy. Maybe you want to snack on kohlrabi with tahini sauce. So tahini is made out of sesame seeds, and it's very high in calcium. So it's a brilliant snack. Or what about dark chocolate with 3 Brazil nuts? So Brazil nuts are very high in selenium. And selenium is helping you to increase your sex hormones, libido, but also to make you feel full for longer. Let's look at the dinner. So if you want to lose the weight, you would ideally want a light dinner, because every time when the sun goes down, our metabolism is slowing down and it's preparing us to go to sleep. So I would recommend having some source of protein, which can be eggs, feta cheese, chicken, fish, or if you are vegan, maybe tofu, and unlimited amount of vegetables. So for example, a cruciferous vegetable like Brussels sprouts and cauliflower and broccoli is absolutely amazing because, believe it or not, it's quite high in protein too. So here are some more suggestions. So homework for you. Try to plan your meals according to what you are going to do that day. And remember that batch cooking is very important. If you prepare your meals on Sunday or Saturday for 3 or 4 days, you don't have to think about quick solutions during the week. The same. For example, frozen vegetable is absolutely fine. Research showed that frozen vegetable was harvested in the full season. They take it into the factory that is usually actually near the fields, and they boil it maybe for 2 minutes, like give it this shock, and then they freeze it into -26 and immediately package it. And all the vitamins and minerals are kept inside. And then when you pull it out, you don't have to cut, chop, grate. You just put it into the pan with a little bit of water, steam it for 5, 6, maximum 8 minutes. And you can add any sauce, any source of protein, and you have a really quick, delicious breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And if you are ready for more, you would want to learn about the intermittent fasting and how to exercise, I have another workshop for you.